What's going on, guys? K-Pioneer and welcome back. And in this week's video, we'll be taking a look at the team I've been using in the Open Great League for this season. Spark Lanturn on the lead, Obstagoon on the safe swap, and Altaria as the closer. We all know how good the Lanturn Altaria core is this season, and this video will show you why that's the case. Now, I'm running Spark on my Lanturn as opposed to Water Gun because of its ability to get to charge moves faster, and it severely helps with the Azumarills and Tapu Finis you come across. Plus, Spark allows you to win the mirror match against Water Gun Lanturns, it allows you to win the Zero Shield against an Altaria lead, and you're still able to tank an Earthquake from a Galarian Stunfisk and get to 2 Surfs. Where if you play out the Zero Shield, it puts the G-Fisk in perfect farm down range for your Obstagoon, of which tends to do very well against the backline of a G-Fisk lead that likes to have ghosts behind it. Against other steals like Bastiodon, you still have the Surf to hit back against it. It gives you great farm down potential against Flyers, and well, if there's a Grass lead, your Lanturn's kinda screwed either way and you gotta pivot on out of there. If you're running Lanturn in the back, then I do believe Water Gun is the better option, but for this line and on the lead, I stand by Spark. I've got Obstagoon on the safe swap as well to bait out their fairy type, mainly Azu, of which Lanturn, with Spark and its bulk, can deal with pretty well. And with that, let's get into the battles. Alright, getting into the first battle, we have Lanturn into Skarmory. This is one of the best leads you can possibly see. My opponent swaps out. I think it's a Lickitung, so I counter with my Obstagoon, and now this is bad, because my opponent can just take switch if they want. So instead, I'm just going to take shield advantage and try and play out with the back to have either Lanturn or Altaria sweep, depending on what their third Pokemon is. This point, I'm going to wait out my clock just in case I need to pivot on out. I'm going to bring in Lanturn and load up on energy. I'm not really afraid of anything that the Vigoroth's going to throw. Bulldoze does do a ton of damage, but again, Bulldoze isn't a great move. So I'm just going to tank that, load up on energy, throw the Surf right before they reach another Body Slam. And hopefully this shield advantage and a little bit of an energy lead on my Lanturn will be able to be beneficial against what they have in the back. It's a Scrafty, and I'm going to go straight for a Thunderbolt right here because they are down a shield and I'm not expecting them to shield. So I can just bring in my Altaria, they'll pivot into their Skarmory, and you may think this is a bad matchup because, you know, Dragon Breath user into a Steel type, but Skarmory is so slow to moves that having a shield advantage and the fact that it's still Dragon Breath, which is extremely oppressive, this damage adds up over time. Where I could 2-shield my way through this matchup, take down the Skarmory, and then be able to hopefully take down the Scrafty as well. They get to a Brave Bird, gets my final shield. I'm still not in foul play range. So I'm going to load up on energy, throw right before. I do throw on alignment, a little unfortunate for me as I do let a free counter sneak through. So I'm counting their moves. They do reach a foul play right here. It's going to hurt. And I swap out into my Lanturn to either force them to throw a move or just get sparked down. If I forced them, if they did throw a move right there, my Altaria would have been able to Dragon Breath down in time. So that's a good game to my opponent. Here, Azu lead, fantastic lead for Spark Lanturn. That's exactly where they want to see it. They switch into a jump bluff. And I should have gone into my Altaria right away, but because I hesitated, I couldn't then swap into my Altaria that low on energy, so I decided to chip it first. Tank and acrobatics. My opponent is going to reach another one, so I will have to respect this one with a shield. They end up baiting with an energy ball. And now at this point, I've lost track of the jump bluff's energy. I think I might have been able to Dragon Breath down in time, but I bail out, throw a Sky Attack. The good news is we do maintain switch at least. And I'm not really in bubble down range for the Azu either, so it will have to throw a move to take me out. Brilliant catch by my opponent, catching the Sky Attack on the Registeel. That just allows me to bring in my Obstagoon and load up on tons of energy. I am as well running Cross Chop instead of Obstruct for the second move on my Obstagoon, just because I'm not a big fan of Obstruct. Plus, I like the coverage that Cross Shot provides for these exact scenarios with all the steals around in the Open Great League. Now, my Lanturn's my win condition. So I'm just gonna save my shield for my Lanturn. Bring in my Altaria right here where the Registeel would be forced to throw a move. And in comes their Azu. So I'm gonna throw off the Sky Attack for a little bit of chip. They're most likely gonna save both of their shields for my Lanturn, which they do. They get a nice bubble down, and I have one win condition right here. I will shield their first move as they're most likely to go for the Play Rough right away. I need to bait this Azu twice with Surf and then get to a Thunderbolt before they're either able to farm me down or get to another move that will take me out. I'm being very careful about my moves, making sure I'm throwing with good timing to not allow for any extra turns to my opponent. We do get the first bait, the second bait right here. This is gonna be game if they call it. I get the final shield. Oh, that's huge. But they get to a Play Rough. This is gonna be close to taking me out. Will I be able to get to this Thunderbolt in time? I just barely am, and I'm able to take this game after a big misplay on my part against the jump bluff. So GG's to my opponent. Into the next match, Lanturn into Medicham. Interesting lead, as it's pretty neutral if you play out the zeros, which tends to happen a lot of the time. I play to the CMP tie here just to see who would win CMP. It's mainly gonna be Medicham, but if you have like a really attack-weighted Lanturn, then there's a chance you could win CMP. So I just like to play to CMP tie to just figure out if that's gonna happen or not. My opponent pivots into Lickitung. I'm gonna swap right to try and catch a move, store that energy, and I'm gonna swap into my Obstagoon right away, throw this Cross Shot, and I'm being very careful counting the licks from my opponent's Lickitung. I'm not gonna throw this move right away because I want to overload on energy, and I actually want to take another Body Slam on my Obstagoon because that's gonna limit the amount of farm that my opponent's Medicham's gonna get on me. I luckily am just able to farm down their Lickitung in time, so I don't have to take another move. And I will be able to get both of these Night Slashes off against the Medicham, being able to force a shield, and it's a CMP tie. That's perfect. Throw an Ice Punch to take me out. I'm gonna bring an Altaria to get ahead on energy, and it's a G-Fisk and back. And this is fine, because I can get to 2 Surfs to severely chip this G-Fisk, where the second one is gonna get their final shield. And now my Lanturn, my Altaria, with 2 shields, will be able to take out this G-Fisk and end the game, because I can safely take 2 Rock Slides, even though they're super effective, just because Altaria is very, very tanky. I will shield up this one, just in case something happens, like a Medicham swap. Be sure to throw in good timing, not allow any extra mud shots. Sky Attack gets some nice chip. I will let this one go, just in case the Medi is somehow able to get to another Ice Punch, which it shouldn't be able to. I just shield this up. I'm gonna swap in the Medicham, throw the Sky Attack, take out the Medicham, and then I'll be able to Dragon Breath down the G-Fisk for another good game. GG's to my opponent. Next match, Lanturn into Shadow Kanto Ninetales. Another great lead. Swap into Sableye. We're quick right away into our Obstagoon. We make sure to throw our move first. Since it was a swap, we don't want to let them deny us of a fast move. This is enough for the return, so I will respect it. Because Obstagoon can survive a return, but if you let the return land, then they can shield one of your Night Slashes, and then you'll be forced to shield a Foul Play if you want to maintain switch. So I just like to shield the first return and see what my opponent wants to do, if they want to match shields later, or if they want to just take the shield advantage, of which Obstagoon with health and a shield advantage. You know, with my opponent having a shield advantage, Obstagoon with health, that doesn't really matter because Obstagoon can spam off those charge moves and is quite impressive with counter as well. Opponent gets more energy on their K9. They bring in a Trevenant, and this is fantastic. Altaria is pretty tanky, as I mentioned earlier. It can take a Shadow Ball and then just pretty much Dragon Breath down, so I wouldn't need a shield there, but I do anyways. And at that point, my opponent realizes the match is over and they top left. Trevenant Lead. Terrible lead for our Lanturn. We're going to switch right into our Obstagoon, and this is where the Obstagoon safe switch against a Trevenant is golden. What's behind a Trevenant a lot of time? The G-Fisk. So a G-Fisk or another Pokemon on top of that that's weak to counter. So they can't really switch out of here and they have to stay in. And that allows you to take out the Trevenant or get it super low, like this one has a Lickitung as well. Take out the Trevenant or get it super low so your Lanturn can deal with it if it gets aligned to it at the end of the match. Now, since I have all this energy, I can spam out against the Lickitung. They let their Lickitung go down, and there's the G-Fisk. 2 Pokemon weak to counter in the back, so Obstagoon absolutely destroys my opponent's line. That's why I believe Obstagoon is a fantastic Pokemon in the current Great League meta, because it core breaks a ton of teams. And now I'm recognizing Altaria as my win condition, so I'm just going to bring in my Lanturn and just tank whatever they throw. I'm not going to shield anything. They do go for the Earthquake. Altaria is able to hold on. We get to the Surf. They catch it on their Trevenant, but that's fine. Surf takes out the Trevenant, and Altaria with 2 shields is just going to be able to clean up this game, because my opponent would need to get to 5 Rock Slides to take me out, and they're just not going to be able to do that. This is Rock Slide number 2 right here. No need to shield yet. I'm just going to Dragon Breath on down. We take a nice game. That's a nice 5-0 set with the team. Getting to the next battle, we have Lanturn into Medicham. So, like last time, fairly neutral matchup. We're going to stay in and just go straight for the Thunderbolt. You go double Thunderbolt, you actually are able to win this matchup in the 0 shield. As long as the opposing Medicham doesn't get a defense debuff on the Psychic, that is. So first Thunderbolt coming through, going to do some nice damage in return. We're going to load up, and you can see my Lanturn's getting pretty low at this point. But we CMP on the Thunderbolt, and here, again, Nerves of Steel. It's an Ice Punch from a Medicham. It doesn't do that much damage. You are able to survive it, just barely, and get to this Thunderbolt. My Lanturn has pretty poor IVs too. It's like a rank 500 something, and we're still able to survive it. They do bring in a G-Fisk. I bring in my Obstagoon to counter it. I will throw first right before they get to an Earthquake. Cross Chop's gonna do some nice damage. Do have 2 shields, so this is a very likely scenario for them to bait, but I will still respect it, and it is the Earthquake. That's huge, and they bring in a Drapion. So at this point, I'm recognizing that the Obstagoon is going to be my win condition. So I'm going to save all my shields for the Obstagoon. I will swap out on the Sludge Bomb to try and catch it onto the Altaria. But this one's actually running Aqua Tail, and we still catch it, so that's massive for us. They will outpace us to the next move. This one should be the Crunch. It is the Crunch, and then we should be able to survive the next Crunch, but they get the defense drop. So unfortunately we won't be able to, but we do get off the Sky Attack, which is very nice because we get their last shield. And we can just let this go at this point. They try an Aqua Tail to potentially get a Mudshot farm down from the G-Fist, but it just allows us to get to another Sky Attack, which delays our switch clock, so then we can CMP with their G-Fisk to be able to take it out. And now we can just counter down the Drapion, and our opponent realizes that. GG's. Next battle, Lanturn into Shadow Swampert. Tough one for us, but I like to overfarm a little bit and throw off the Surf just so they don't catch the Surf on anything else. Opposing Swampert is at 7, And what I like to do here is load up and either swap into my Altaria as soon as I get to the second surf or one before. It just all depends how I'm feeling, because the Swampert will almost always throw on one of those 2 turns and then catch it and waste all that energy on the Altaria. Unfortunately, it wasn't the Earthquake, but we are luckily able to make it waste that energy on a Hydro Cannon. They bring in a Toxapex. We will shield up the Sludge Wave as it does massive damage, and we have all this energy that we want to get off. Toxapex, being fairly tanky, can take those Sky attacks no problem. We overfarm right before their next move. It's the next Sky attack that does get their shield, so it looks like our opponent's wanting to keep switch, and I realize that, so I bank and store all that energy on my Altaria, able to go in, snipe with my Lanturn, get rid of all that energy on the opposing Toxapex. Swampert comes in. I'm gonna let this go at this point. It's just a Hydro Cannon, so perhaps they're a Hydro Cannon Sludge Wave Swampert. And now I can let this go. Bring in my Altaria and farm down with Dragon Breath before they're able to get to another move, hopefully. Actually bring in Obstagoon instead so I can get an energy lead, that's right. Because I would still have a shield to block an incoming Hydro Cannon. They get to 1, but it's just a Sableye, and they can see the match. Next match, to a Shadow Hypno. This you don't see very often. So I'm going to load up, throw my Thunderbolt right before they get to a Shadow Ball, and my opponent actually shields it. It is a Shadow, but Hypno is pretty tanky in general, so this makes me think, you know, it might be worthwhile to keep my Lanturn around. But I do call just a Thunder Punch there. Throw off my next Thunderbolt, and they double shielding their Hypno. So now I'm like, okay, something's up. They don't want to see that Lanturn in their back, so I save my Lanturn, swap out, and it's a good thing I did because there's an Azumarill in the back. And I load up on energy. Probably should have thrown one more to, or no need to, but if an Azumarill comes in and they have shields, always load up to the Gunk Shot, because you could potentially get a shield in return. But otherwise, you just spam off these Night Slashes. Do survive a play rough, no need for me to shield. Obstagoon's pretty much just dead weight at this point, and I have my Lanturn to deal with the Azumarill when it comes back in. But because of that boost, I'm able to actually take out the Azumarill and win a 0 shield scenario against an Azumarill with an Obstagoon going straight Night Slash. That's absolutely insane. Now I bring in my Lanturn to spark down and get some extra energy, and then I'm gonna pivot right into my Altaria because I want to try and bait out their third Mon, because again, it's most likely weak to Lanturn, and I want to save the Lanturn for it. But they stay in with the Hypno, and it's the Mana Buzz. So there you go. Double weak to Lanturn in the back, so a great call by me to preserve it. Unfortunately for the Mana Buzz, this Moonblast is going to do a ton of damage. And I'm just going to bring in my Lanturn at this point, force them to throw right before I get to a Thunderbolt. And Altaria should be able to close out this match, no problem. I will let this foul play go and commit to a Dragon Breath down, where I can just safely shield here. Dragon Breath down the Mana Buzz, and leave with a Moonblast stored, which will easily take out the Hypno. Good game. Next battle, we have Lanturn into a Shadow Nidoqueen. This is one matchup where not having Water Gun hurts us a lot, but again, we have Surf to deal with it. And a lot of Shadow Nidoqueens, they love to bait the Poison Fang, so I just tend to call, and they bait like 90% of the time. So we're able to get to 2 Surfs, take 2 shields, or take a shield to do massive damage, or take Switch. In this case, they actually swap out and catch the Surf on my Umbreon, and on their Umbreon. And I have a fantastic counter to Umbreon and Obstagoon, so I'm just gonna load up on energy on my Lanturn, get to 2 Surfs, and then swap into my Obstagoon. Obstagoon can fire off these cross chops in return, do some massive damage to the Umbreon. Unfortunately, our switch timers are misaligned, because of that overfarm on energy that I did, allowing them to swap back in their Nidoqueen. And they have to Earth Power me to take me out here. If they go Poison Fang, I'll survive it and get to this Night Slash, which I do. Which is very good for me, because I still have my Lanturn, which I could swap out in, snipe with a Surf, potentially get a shield. Do get a shield, another Surf coming through. Because we banked all that energy, we're able to get 2 shields against our opponent. If I wanted to, I could double shield myself here and take out the Nidoqueen, but I still have a full health Altaria with 2 shields and an Obstagoon to clear any that Poison Fang debuff that they would be able to get onto my Altaria. I'm gonna let this one go. I'm gonna commit to the Dragon Breath down. They're just able to get to a Poison Fang in time. That's fine. I'll be able to shield this one up. Still have 1 shield and a ton of energy for whatever they have in the back. I'm switching out right away to clear that debuff, and it's a Scrafty. So we're in a fantastic position. Just load up on energy, throw this Moonblast, and that should be a good game. 1 shot to Scrafty. Still have a little bit of an Umbreon left, and that's okay. We get to the Sky Attack in time, so they would have to double up on foul plays, which they're not able to. GG's. Next battle, Lanturn into Registeel. Since we are able to tank a Focus Blast and a Zap Cannon pretty easily, and they'd have to throw 2 to take us out, I go straight Thunderbolt in this situation. Hope that I don't get the attack debuff from the Zap Cannon, which luckily in this case I don't, and just go for a second Thunderbolt right before they get to another move. So they want to do, they let it go through. CMP tie, perfect. Let this go. They actually undercharge to try and get some more energy, but that's a huge mistake because it allows me to overfarm onto my Lanturn, throw right before they reach another move, take it out, and still have residual energy left over. But they actually shield, and that's okay because now I get to have still have 2 shields and a counter head start on my Obstagoon. It's a Pelipper that they bring in. Very cool pick to see in the Great League. Throw a Night Slash off, no boost. He'll get to a move. I do call that as just a Weather Ball, as I have 2 shields and they're likely to bait. It is just the Weather Ball. My opponent loads up more. This is just another Weather Ball, which I will let go and save 2 shields for my Altaria to potentially close out in the back. And it's a Trevenant, and this game's just over at this point. We could double shield and just Dragon Breath all the way down. We could no shield really, because Altaria could tank that Shadow Ball just fine. But respect to my opponent for going up for the Shadow Ball right off the bat, playing to their win condition, if there was one there. They're still staying in, fighting the good fight. Respect to them. This one they do Seed Bomb bait, but it's no problem. They won't get to another move, and we just Dragon Breath down and they can see the match. GG's. Next battle, Lanturn Mirror. This is Water Gun. It's a fantastic matchup for us. It is Water Gun. So we resist their fast moves while they take neutral from ours, and we're able to outpace to our charge moves, which is huge. Thunderbolt, decent damage, brings it to below 50%, and they'll be firing back with a Thunderbolt of their own. Does some good damage to us as well. They try and catch the next Thunderbolt on their Altaria, and well, I don't have a fantastic answer to Altaria except my own, so I'm just gonna throw this Thunderbolt, chip it some, and then dip into my own Altaria. I am able to survive whatever move that they throw. I don't really plan on shielding I already do shield my Altaria. Even though I could survive that Moonblast, shielding it and then being able to farm down and having all this energy makes tons of sense too, and is probably the better play. So I can get this Moonblast off to guarantee a shield from there. Lanturn And then when my Lanturn comes in, I could just combo play it with a move of my own, because this puts it in Surf range. And I'm not quite in Thunderbolt range yet, where I could commit to the farm down, which I do. It's huge. They have a Venusaur in the back. I'm gonna load up on energy, and I don't think this Venusaur can farm me down. I should be able to get to 2 Sky Attacks maybe. Yes, I'm just able to get to 2 Sky Attacks. That actually ended up being fantastic call shielding the Altaria there, but my Obstagoon with the shield and having Lanturn with this energy still would have been fine as well. Going off the Surf here, we're able to take out the Venusaur, close the game, and that should be the end of the video. This team is super strong. Like I said, this is the team I've been running throughout the Open Great League for the season. I've been making steady gains with it over the course of the past days, weeks, when the Great League's been in the rotation. I do highly recommend it if you're still struggling to make a push for what your goals for this season are. And if you have any questions as to how to run this team, or how to play out any lead scenarios, or just general conceptual questions like why I chose this over that, please feel free to ask away in the comment section. But if you enjoyed it, please drop a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Really love to hear what you have to say. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.